वक्रतुंड महाकाय सूर्यकोटि समप्रभा निर्विघ्नं कुरु मे देव सर्वकार्येषु सर्वदा गुरु ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णु गुरुदेवो महेश्वरः गुरु साक्षात् परब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। ओम सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ओम शांति शांति शांति। ओम श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः। Namaste friends, Team Param Vedanta welcomes you all for session 7 of Kathopanishad. We have completed first Valli of the first chapter and today we are entering the second Valli where Yamadharma Raja will commence his teaching. He begins by glorifying the student in general and Nachiketas in particular, Shishya Stuti. We will take up mantras 1 to 5 for our study today and they'll be explained by Dr. Vikram K. Katpure, Dr. Sanjay Mehrotra, Dr. Anupama, Srimati Nilima and Srimati Pannaga. Dr. Timmappa Hegde sir, as always, will provide us with deeper insights, setting the tone for today's presentations. Now it's time for us to listen to Srimati Aruna, who will briefly revisit the mantras we studied last week before we take on the new set of mantras. Over to you, Aruna ma'am.
Hari Om. The concept of the story of Nachiketa in this, the first part of the Kathopanishad, is a very compelling one. The underlying importance of this story is the adhikaritvam of the extraordinary young boy, the fourfold qualities of sadhana chatushtaya sampati that he possessed. It's only when a person is so ready with these qualities that the Guru can teach the highest knowledge. So Nachiketa, being an example of the ideal student with the best attitude, has to be emulated by all seekers of truth. Let us now look at verses 25 to 29, which are the concluding part of this section. In verse 25, we see Lord Yama testing the young boy by tempting him with paraloka sukham, pleasures not of this mortal world, but that of the higher lokas, which are not available to human beings. And what form does this take? The form of divine damsels, music, chariots, and what have you. It's not that Lord Yama cannot grant the third boon of Nachiketa, that of Atmajnana, but he's just testing the young boy to make sure he's ready. Lord Yama tells Nachiketa, I'll give you all that I can offer you, but don't question me about the knowledge of what happens after death. In the next verse, next slide, please. Nachiketa replies to the temptations put to him by the Lord Yama in the earlier verse. But he's totally disinterested in all those pleasures which the god of death has to offer, and he declines them. Shvobhavaha, he says, all these ephemeral things, that is, things which are temporary, wear down the sense organs of a mortal, and things, no matter how long they last, they are impermanent. They cannot be there forever. Bhagwan Shankara interprets this verse to say that not only do these ultra pleasures wear out the senses, but they cause a decline in dharma and wisdom, and therefore are not conducive to spiritual growth or one's own welfare. So Nachiketa tells Yama, let all the vehicles, the damsels, the music, dance, etc. remain with you. I don't want any part of this. Next slide, please. In verse 27, Nachiketa continues his rejection of Lord Yama's largesse, saying, anyway, I've had your darshan, O Lord, I will get wealth. Now, money he knows is necessary to survive, but it cannot buy happiness, peace, or immortality. Then Nachiketa also says, Yavat Jivishyamaha, as long as you are there, O Lord, I will live, since you are the Lord in charge of birth and death, in charge of life itself. So indeed, in this cycle of creation, Lord Yama is the god of death, while Lord Indra is the king of the gods. Nachiketa says, my request or boon is that alone, saha eva, only that, the knowledge of what happens after death, the true nature of a person. In other words, he says, I am not wasting my boon on all these other frivolous temporary things. Next slide, please. In verse 28, Nachiketa brilliantly argues with the Lord of Death. he says that since he has such a rare opportunity for self-knowledge, he has access to the God who has access to all this knowledge, also to immortality. Then he says, why would he want all those pleasures which have been mentioned earlier, which have limitations of time? He calls them varna rati pramodam. And they don't help an aging body, even if a person lived to be a few hundred years old. Here, the young boy has displayed his vairagya, his dispassion, tremendously. It is born of viveka or discrimination. There are other forms of dispassion, like total apathy, to say, I really don't care, or dispassion born of disillusionment, but that is an emotional response. No, Nachiketa is exhibiting the form of dispassion, which is true vairagya, born of discrimination, vairagya. It is viveka janya vairagya. In the last verse, next slide, please. Nachiketa concludes that he doesn't want any other boon other than that of Atma Vidya and knowledge of what happens after death. He says, tell me this about which even the gods have doubts. Vichikit Santi, that which tells about life after death, the most important, Mahati Samparaye. He says this knowledge is inaccessible, anupravishtaha, because Lord Yama is delaying giving him this knowledge after he granted the first two boons very easily to him. So he wants to know about this life after death. So he ends this thing by saying, Nachiketa na vrineti. The Nachiketa does not accept anything other than that knowledge. Anyan tasmat. That is, other than that, he doesn't want anything else. In conclusion, all these verses exhibit the discrimination, viveka, dispassion, vairagya, and intense desire, mumukshatva of Nachiketa. So what about the fourth, discipline? Well, he waited in the house of Lord Yama for 3 nights and 3 days with no food and water at such a young age. So we can conclude that he has all the qualities, sadhana chatushtaya sampatti, needed for this boon of great knowledge. Thank you, Hari Om.
Thank you very much, Aruna, for giving us an excellent revision of all the verses that we studied in the last class. Sadashiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. There is a verse in the Viveka Chudamani which says, Durlabam Trayamevaita Deva Nugraha Hetukam Manushutvam Mamukshutvam Mahapurusha Samashraya. 3 things are extremely difficult to get. One is being born as a human being, that we fortunately already have. Second is this intense desire for liberation. The very fact that all of us are attending this class is proof that we have a certain intensity of mumukshutvam. And third, and very fortunately, we have various acharyas, particularly Swami Paramarthananda, who is our guru, and to be able to take surrender and understand these scriptural teachings under the guidance of a competent acharya. In the 7th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, there is a verse which goes like this: Manushyanam sahasreshu kaschid yatati siddhaye yatatam api siddhanam kaschin mam veti tattvataha. What does it mean? It says, it is extremely rare to find someone who's striving to know God. There are a lot of religious people, but how many people want to know God? And Sri Krishna says, among the thousands and thousands of people, very few people strive for siddhaye. Here it means for liberation or for spiritual enlightenment. Api, also, yatatam api siddhanam. Among those who are striving for God, kaschit, maybe one, a rare one, knows me in reality. That means the nature of God is certainly very different from what we have always been trained to know what God is. And fortunately, we are those lucky ones on the path with a great acharya to be able to understand the nature. What is the greatness of Brahma Vidya, which we are seeing in these verses? We have completed the first Valli and we are coming to the second Valli. And it is here now in the coming verses that Yamadharmaraja begins to extol the greatness of the student, which is really to some extent our greatness. We will also see the greatness of the teacher and also the uniqueness of Brahma Vidya. What is the uniqueness of Brahma Vidya? Now, we have always been used to studying something as an object, and this is what is called objectification tendency. And that is why we also see God as someone outside of me, as some object who's far away, paroksha, which has to be acquired. But in Vedanta, the uniqueness of Brahma Vidya is not that we are seeking something else. We are discovering that we are someone other than this limited body-mind. This self-discovery, that there is something in me other than my body and mind, which is actually Brahma Vidya. Brahman is not a new substance which is revealed by the Vedanta, but a new status I discover about myself. I'm able to listen. I'm able to speak. There is some force in me. What is that force? That driving force, which makes us aware of whatever, is what we need to recognize as Brahman and to be able to claim, I am that. And this discovery is called Aham Brahmasmi. And therefore, all through, let us not be a victim of falling into the trap of objectification. And that is why the importance of a guru, and the guru will always try to help us to discover Brahman as our very true nature. When the Mughal Emperor Akbar shifted his capital from Delhi to Fatehpur Sikri, he built a huge wall, which is called the Bulund Darwaza, or the entrance to Fatehpur Sikri. And when he built this huge gateway, he wanted a nice inscription to be put on. He had Sufi saints, and these Sufi saints gave him a quotation from Jesus, which is not there in the Bible. And the quotation, which is written on the top of this Bulund Darwaza, goes like this. Isa, son of Maria, which means Jesus, son of Mary, said this world is a bridge for us to pass over. That means this human life is an opportunity for us to evolve from one level, from Manushvatvam to Ishwaratvam or Brahmatvam. Don't build houses on it. We are not here for worldly accomplishment. That is what is going to be focused here. Now, from now on, Yamadharmaraja, our teacher here, is going to introduce, there are two paths that we have to choose. One is called the worldly path, which most of us go to, and the other is the spiritual path. We will now learn new terms, what is called Preyas, the pleasant path, and Shreyas, the path that we are supposed to take. For that, it requires certain qualifications. Of course, in the previous chapter, we found that Yamadharmaraja tested whether Nachiketa has all these qualifications. If you have all these qualifications, you are entitled to it. And what are these qualifications? Viveka, or discrimination, Vairagya, or the ability to have a dispassion for everything worldly, Mumukshutvam, a keen desire for this knowledge, and the required discipline called Shama Adi Shakta Sampatti. What is Shama Adi Shakta Sampatti? Shama means mind control. Dhamma means mastery over the sense organs. Uparama is to be able to turn within and not to focus on anything else other than what I set myself to do. Titiksha is to have that tremendous amount of mental toughness. Shraddha is that what my guru and the Shastra says is gospel truth. And Samadhana is my ability to have that focusing tendency, to have that single-pointed mind. There is a wonderful text called Tattva Bodha. Although we have studied it indirectly, we have not gone to the original text. In today's class, I will touch on those words of the original Tattva Bodha, which are extremely crisp definitions of each of these terms. And this is how the necessary qualifications are being described in the text, and it goes like this. sadhana chatustaya sampanna adhikarinam moksha sadhana bhutam tattva viveka prakarana vakshamaha, which means I am going to now teach you those fourfold qualifications which are required for liberation and the mode of inquiry, or what is called tattva viveka. So it begins with a form of a question answer. Sadhana chatustaya kim? Nitya anitya vastu viveka. That means the capacity to discriminate between what is permanent and what is impermanent. Iha amutra artha phala bhoga viragaha. That means whatever of the fruits of actions that I have acquired, let me have a dispassion. I don't want to be able to enjoy it in this world or in the world hereafter, like Swarga. Shama Adi Shakta Sampatti, those sixfold disciplines. Mumukshutvam Cha Iti, the burning desire for liberation. And then the first question is, what is Viveka? And this is how the original question answer goes in Tattva Bodha. Nitya anitya vastu viveka ka. And the answer comes in the same verse. Nitya vastu ekam Brahman. That means that Brahman is that eternal reality. Tad vyatiriktam. Everything else, sarvam anityam, is ephemeral. That means it is only an appearance. Ayam eva nitya anitya vastu viveka. This alone is called viveka or discrimination. Then it asks this question, viveka vairagya ka. What is vairagya? And the answer, the same verse continues, iha, here, swarga, hereafter, or in the heavens, bhogeshu, the desire to enjoy. Icha ahityam, I will not have that desire to enjoy all these things. Shamadhi sadhana sampatti ka. What is shatka sampatti? And it enlists all these six. Shama, dama, uparati, titiksha, shraddha, samadhana, cha, iti. Shama ka, mano nigraha. What is shama? The ability to control the mind. Dama ka. What is dama? Chakshu adi. That means all my sense organs. Specifies as bahya indriya. Nigraha is dama. The ability to control our sense organs. Uparama ka. Swadharma anushtanam eva. That means one's own duty. That means when we are in the spiritual path, the guru or the guide will tell you what to do. Focus only on that and nothing else, because we don't have time for anything else. Titiksha ka. Beautiful definition. Shita, Ushna, Sukha, Dukkadi, Sahishnutvam. That means the ability to handle hot, cold, joy, sorrow, and have that mental toughness or endurance. Shraddha ki drishi. What is Shraddha? And the answer given in the same verse is Guru Vedanta Vakya Adishu Vishwasaha Shraddha. Shraddha means whatever my Guru says, whatever my scripture says, and if I can use a Western word, is taken as gospel truth. I do not question it. Even if it does not appeal to me, even if it does not appear rational, it means I have not been able to assimilate it for the time being, but I take that as truth until it is verified. Then samadhana kim. What is samadhana? Chitta ekagrata, that single pointedness of my mind. Mumukshutvam kim. What is mumukshutva? Moksha me bhuyat iti icha. Let me attain to liberation. That intense desire is called mumukshutva. And in conclusion, it concludes the same fourfold qualification by saying, Yetad sadhana chatustayam tata tattva vivekasya adhikarina bhavanti. Now, when you have all these qualifications, you become eligible for what? Tattva viveka, to inquire into the truth. And what is tattva viveka? Atma satyam. There is only one truth. Brahma Satyam. Tad anyat sarvam mithya. Everything else is an appearance, is of a lower order of reality compared to Atma. And that is my mission. And this is the original Tattva Bodha. Before I conclude this introduction, I would like to touch on two more Shanti Pathas. We have studied 4 Shanti Pathas so far. And as I told you in the last class, although there are 4 Vedas, we have 6 Shanti Pathas, for the reason being Yajurveda has got 2 schools, Shukla and Krishna, and each of these have a separate Shanti Patha. And there is one exception in that Taittiriya Upanishad has 3 Vallis. The first Valli is called Shiksha Valli, and in the Shiksha Valli, it has a unique Shanti Patha called Shanno Mitra, which we are going to study in this class. Now, as a quick recap, I want you to see this Shanti Patha, Om Sahana Bhavatu, comes from which Upanishad? The answer should be which Veda? It should come from Krishna Yajurveda. Om Purnamada Purnamidam is again from the Shukla Yajurveda. The Shanti Patha Om Badram Karnedi Shrunyama Devaha, it comes from the Atharva Veda. There are so many Upanishads in that which we study. And then finally, this beautiful Shanti Patha, which we studied in the last class, Om Apya Yantu Mamangani, comes from the very beautiful musical Sama Veda, which has 2 Upanishads called Kenopanishad and the Chandogya Upanishad. We will study 2 more Shanti Pathas, and the first one will be from the Rig Veda, the Shanti Patha, and that is called Om Vangme Manasi Pratishtita. I will request Shamala to chant this. Shamala, please.
Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Om Me Manasi Pratishtita. Mano Me Vachi Pratishtitam. Aviravir Mayedhi. Vedasya Maani Sthaha. Shrutam Me Ma Prahasihi. Anenadhitena. Ahoratran Sandadhami. Ritam Vadishyami. Satyam Vadishyami. Tanmamavatu. Tadvaktaramavatu. Avatu Mam. Avatu Vaktaram. Avatu Vaktaram. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
Thank you very much, Shamala. We will quickly go through this Vang Me Manasi Pratishtita. Vang means my speech. May there be harmony between my thought and my word. That means whatever I say should be integrated with my thoughts and my words. There should be no disparity. There should be no double personality. What I say, I should mean. What I mean, I should say. So it works out both ways. And finally, my action should also be in keeping with my thoughts and my words. And that is the meaning of Om Vang Me Manasi Pratishtita. Mana Me Vang Pratishtita. Both ways it comes. Avir Avir Ma Edi. That means Avihi means light, or Brahman, the light of consciousness. Avi Edihi means may you, O Brahman, I want you to become very evident to me. That means I should have a very clear knowledge of Brahman as not an object that I should know as something divine, something wonderful, as my true nature. And then Vedasya Ma Anishtitha. Now, here the student is praising his own mind and his speech because they have been the tools for him to get Vedantic knowledge. Ani means a vehicle or carrier. Because of my mind and because of the speech knowledge, I have been able to get this Vedic knowledge, and may that be established in me. Shrutam me ma prahashi. let this teaching be established in me. Let it always be clear to me. And then the word goes, anena aditena. With this teaching, because I value this teaching so much, aho ratrani sattatami. That means let me spend my entire day and night revising these teachings. Now we will learn these teachings, but so important that we revise these teachings in all the available time that is available. Then there is two words. What is Ritam and what is Satyam? Ritam means knowledge that is in keeping with the Shastras. Ritam. Satyam means a life keeping with what I know. Later on, you will have in another Upanishad, it will say Ritam means Vyavaharika Satyam and Satyam means Paramarthika Satyam. So again here it says Ritam means Vyavaharika Satyam and Satyam means Paramarthika Satyam. And then it concludes this way, Ritam Vadishyami, Satyam Vadishyami, I will follow the truth. Tanmam Avatu, please protect me. Tad Vaktaram Avatu, please protect my teacher. Avatu Mam, protect me. Avatu Vaktaram, please protect my teacher. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. One more, extremely beautiful and very melodious is this Shanno Mitra. I will request Shamala to chant this for us.
Om Shanno Mitra Sham Varunaha Shanno Bhavatvaryama Shanna Indro Bruhaspatihi Shanno Vishnurukramaha Namo Brahmane Namaste Vayo Tvameva Pratyaksham Brahmasi Tvameva Pratyaksham Brahma Vadishyami Rutam Vadishyami Satyam Vadishyami Tanmamavatu Tadvaktaramavatu Avatu Mam Avatu Vaktaram. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
Thank you, Shamala. Once again, as you heard, extremely melodious, and these Veda mantras have certain swaras and they have to be chanted in that particular way. There is not much of Vedantic truth in it. Extremely melodious, very popularly chanted, and it goes like this. Om Shanno here means just like Bhadra. May all these gods be very good and kind to us, propitious to us. And who is this Mitra? Mitra refers to Lord Surya, Varuna, the Lord of the waters, Aryama, another Vedic god, Brihaspati is the teacher of all the Devas, and Indra, the Lord of all the Vedas, Vishnu Urukramaha, Vishnu who has long strides, Namo Brahmane, salutations to Brahman, Namaha Vayuhu, salutations to Vayu, Tvameva Pratyaksha Brahmasmi, you are the first of all, because space cannot be perceived, but Vayu can be perceived. I can sense you. So I will see you as Brahman. Tvameva, and then I consider you as Brahman. Ritam Vadishyami, Satyam Vadishyami. That means I will follow both Vyavaharika Satya and Paramarthika Satya. Then the rest is the same. Tanmam Avatu, please protect me. Tad Vaktaram Avatu, please protect my teacher. Avatu Ma, protect me. Avatu Vaktaram, protect my teacher. Om Shanti Shanti. With that, we will come to the first verse of the second Valli of the first chapter. Dr. Vikram, please.
Hari Om. In previous chapter, we saw Lord Yama tempts Nachiketa that instead of Gnanam, he can have gift and sense pleasure for enjoyment in this world, Ihaloka Sukham, which are available only with extraordinary wealth and power. Further, Lord Yama offers him celestial pleasure, which are available in higher lokas, which are obtained by Punyaphalam or from Dharma, Artha, Kama, Purushartha. Lord Yama wants Nachiketa to choose sense pleasure over self-knowledge as material benefit are natural human instinct, while self-knowledge is too abstract. But Nachiketa demonstrate qualities of Viveka Vairagyam and Mumukshutvam, which are essential qualification for self-knowledge. Thus, he passes the test and he is ready for receiving the Jnanam. The second Valli begins with Lord Yama glorifying the Vedantic student in general and Nachiketa in particular, Shishya Stuti, followed by glorification of the Vedantic teacher, Guru Stuti, and praising the knowledge itself. Next slide. The second Valli, the first verse goes like this. Anya Shreyo Anyatu Eva Preya Te Ubhe Nanarthe Purusha Sinitah Tayo Shreya Adana Sadhu Bhavati Hiyate Arthadya Upri Yo Vrunite. The word by word meaning goes like this. Shreya Anyata. Shreyas is one path. Uta means and. Preya eva anyat. Preyas is quite another. Te ube. Those two. Nanarthe. With different destination. Sinitah Purusha. Bind a person. Next slide. Ada Danasya. For one who chooses. Shreya. Shreyas. Tayo. Between the two. Sadhu Bhavati. There is inner happiness. Yaha Vrunite. One who chooses Preyas, Uhite is deprived Arthat of the supreme goal. So the literal meaning is Shreyas is one path and Preyas is another. Those two different have different destination. They bind a person. There is inner happiness for one who chooses Shreyas between the two. One who chooses Preyas is indeed deprived of the supreme goal. Next slide. Lord Yama explains that person who chooses two different paths, Shreyas and Preyas. Preyas deals with variety of karmas as described in Veda Purva part. The karmas can be physical, kaik, verbal, vachik, mental, manasa. These are performed with desire of material benefit and pleasure with improving the sense object, the sense organ, or the environment for the enjoyment. Happiness is dependent on improvement of the worldly pleasures or anatma sukham. This is called as karma marga, also called here as preyas, otherwise called as pravrutti marga. Desire for worldly pleasure is a natural human instinct, taking pride and pleasure in possession. However, anatma sukham is characterized by being dukkha mishrit, atriptikaratvam, and bandhakatvam. Next slide. While Shreyas is a Vedantic path, path of knowledge, jnanam, and benefit is jnanaphalam or atma sukham, the focus is not on changing the surrounding, but transformation within. Atma Jnanam leads to ultimate and lasting happiness. Shreyas is also called as Jnana Marga or Nivritti Marga. The person who chooses Preyas will get short-term gratification, but lose out on ultimate happiness or Brahman realization. Next slide. In Bhaja Govindam, verse 11, Shankaracharya says, Ma kuru dhana jana yauvana garva. That is, one should not be proud of dhana, sense object, youth, sense organ, and jana, environment, as these are anatma sukha and will be lost in time. It is important to come out of mohamaya and focus on jnanam. Next slide. In Bhagavad Gita chapter 2, Sri Krishna advises Arjuna to develop Vyavasayatmak Buddhi or discrimination to choose means. One should have clarity of goal and choose appropriate means to achieve this goal. If one chooses Karma Marga, such a person will never get Jnana. Next slide. To summarize, Lord Yama describes two means, Shreyas and Preyas. Preyas is the Karma Marga with Anatma Sukham as the goal, while Shreyas is Jnana Marga with Brahman as a goal. Lord Yama praises Nachiketa and all Vedanta students who have discrimination to choose Shreyas or Preyas. Hari Om.
Thank you very much, Dr. Vikram, for a nice explanation of this verse, where Yamadharmaraja is saying that we have an option between two very distinct paths in our life. One is called Shreyas and the other is called Preyas. Preyas is the pleasant path. Shreyas is the path we are expected to follow. Now, we don't have that option of taking both, because these are very two distinct paths. The one who chooses Shreyas obtains the highest. One who goes after Preyas misses this great opportunity of a human birth to be able to attain this supreme goal. So, of the two paths, there is one path which is less often traveled. And fortunately, we have had directions to follow the path less often traveled. Why are these two paths very distinct? One is the path of avidya, that is the path of Preyas. The pleasant path is avidya, kama, karma, and punarjanma. And you will see in today's class itself, Yamadharmaraja will say those who follow the pleasant path will be in my trap all the time, because they will have repeated birth and repeated deaths, because that is the path of ignorance. The path which says that I have to accomplish something, a desire comes. For that desire, I have to do something. And when I do something, there is punya or papa. Then there is another path, which is the path of vidya. And once you attain to that path, suddenly there is a feeling that I don't have to prove anything to anybody. There is a feeling that I'm reaching home. There is an inner sense of fulfillment, that there is nothing to do, there is nowhere to go. And fortunately, that is the path that we are in. To explain more about this, in order to be on this path, few things are required. That means we have to be a form of a mental sannyasi. Reduce your possessions to the extent possible. Reduce obligations, reduce relations and transactions, because more port, less option to go into this path. Now, the greater explanation of this verse is a very famous second verse, which will be explained to us by Dr. Sanjay. Dr. Sanjay, please.
Thank you, sir. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. As we have already got the introduction in the past and as well as today, Nachiketas has refused all worldly attractions which were offered by Yama, Dharmaraja, and he has shown Viveka Vairagya Mukshutvam. Now, Upanishad is going to glorify a deserving student, which is very, very important. In the process, also provide information about the types of humans or types of beings who are the seekers of Vedanta, which we also call as the Jnana Marga, or people who are lost in the world doing their karma and enjoying the results of those karmas, which are either maybe good or bad, which is what we call as karma phala. And we call them karta and bhokta, or this marg is called as karma marga. This marga is different than the karma yoga, which is described in Bhagavad Gita, and we all know that. Along with that, Yamadharmaraja would also glorify the vidya, the teaching itself. Next slide, please. The first verse goes, Anyat Shreyo, Anyat Yadutaiva Preya, Te Ube Nanarte Purashagum Sinita, Tayo Shreha Adadanasya Sadhu Bhavati, Hiyate Yadartha Yathardya Preyo Vranite. This is the first verse where he is describing what is the Shreyas and Preyas. Shreyas is one path and Preyas is quite another. These two with different destination bind a person. There is felicity for one who chooses Shreyas between the two. One who chooses Preyas is indeed deprived of the supreme goal. Next slide, please. So Ved Purva, which we have talked about, deals varieties of the karmas, which are Kayika, Vachika, and Manasa. We have known about these. And these karmas are performed for gaining the sense pleasures, or sense objects and sense organs and environment. They're all involved. And we do this for improving our worldly pleasure, which are, we call as anatma sukham. And as we know, they're all transient, they are transitory, they are not permanent. Vedanta deals with knowledge, and it tells you about what is the benefit of Atma Sukham. So one is Anatma Sukham, which is the worldly pleasures, and what is Atma Sukham. And in Anatma Sukham, what we give emphasis on is what I have, and Atma Sukham, we focus what I am. So one is extroverted and one is introverted or not extroverted, which we just read about. That is called as the inwardness. Next slide, please. So Lord Yama calls the path of karma as Preyas and the path of jnana as Shreyas. Dr. Hegde has just talked about it. It is also called as Pravritti Marga and Nivritti Marga. So Karma Marga, which you do as a Karmi and a Bhokta, is a marg or is a path of Preyas, and it is appealing to most of the common man. And until we know about Vedanta, we were all in part of it, and mostly we are still in part of it. Jnana Marga, called as Shreyas, because it is good for everyone. And that is the recommended path. And one cannot follow both paths. By going towards one, you will move away from another. It's very natural when you go towards the Shreyas, you will move away from the Preyas. But secondarily, material goal can be also fulfilled in that process, but you remain unattached to that, whatever advantage you go by going through the path of Shreyas, which is the Nivritti Marga. Next slide, please. So here in the second verse, Shreyascha Preyascha Manushyameto Tau Sampuritya Vivinakti Dhiraha Shreyo hi Dhirobhi Preyaso Vranite Preyo Mando Yoga Chemad Vranite Shreya cha Preya Shreyas and Preyas Etaha Manushyam. Approach the human being Samparitya Tau, having very clearly considered them. Dhira, a discriminative person, distinguishes them. Vivinakti, hi dhira. And indeed, the discriminating one, abhivranite. Abhivranite, he chooses Shreya rather than the Preyas. The manda, or the indiscriminate one, chooses Preyas for the sake of acquisition and preservation. Let me read the verse again. Shreyascha Preyascha Manushyametaha Tau Samparitya Vivinakti Dhiraha Shreyo hi Dhirobhi Preyaso Vranite Preyo Mando Yoga Chemad Vranite. Shreyas and Preyas approach the human being, having very clearly considered them. The discriminating person, the dhira, distinguishes them. So it's important to understand what is the difference. Indeed, the discriminative one chooses Shreyas rather than Preyas. The indiscriminate one chooses Preyas for the sake of acquisition and preservation. Next slide, please. Only the human beings have that free will to understand this also, that which mark to choose, whether you should choose Preyas or Shreyas. But there is also a conflict between all of us, which path to go. Many people ask this question when we discuss the Vedanta Marga. Why should we change our life? My life is going very well. I am happy with whatever I'm doing. Why should I change my life in this way? But once they start getting all the meaning, as if their ideas change. An intelligent being understands the limitation of prayer, which is very important to understand, and also understand the limitations of karma phalam. But why? Why does it happen? Because it results in pain, attachment, and dissatisfaction. Hence, he starts looking forward to the Shreyas also, wants to know about it. An aviveki spends his whole life focusing and acquiring possessions. Hence, he is called as a karta and a bhokta. More acquisition means more concerns about his maintenance as well. Because all the karmas which you do, which ultimately result in karma phalam, are mixed with dukkha. We call it dukkha mishritatvam or atriptikarattatvam. You have no satisfaction. There is dissatisfaction, not complete satisfaction. And bandhakatvam, you get attached to them. What is dukkha mishritatvam? Pain of acquisition, maintenance, and ultimately loss. What is atriptikarattatvam? Any acquisition never gives you eternal ananda. There is always more wanted. That is the atriptikaram. You are not tripta. And bandhakatvam. All anatma sukham, you become dependent. They're all like dependence producing drugs. So in conclusion, karma done with the desire, which is the sakama karma, is preyas, and the doer remains attached and hence called as a karmi. I already talked about it. Any karma meant for the purification of the mind, which is chitta shuddhi, comes under jnana marga. So the karma also comes under jnana marga if it is done for the purification of the mind. And the karma yoga, the purpose of the karma yoga is that only, purification of the mind. The intelligent one leaves the responsibility of acquisitions and protection of possessions to the Lord, Yoga Shema, as instructed by Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, verse 922. Ananya chintayanta mamaye jana paryupasate tesham nitya abhyuktanam yoga kshemam vahami aham. Hari Om. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sanjay, for giving us a very clear explanation of this very important and very often quoted by Swamiji and Adi Shankaracharya about the two options that are there with us. Now that we have a wonderful role model in Nachiketa, even in our own lives, temptations will come. Whether I choose the path of Preyas or whether I choose the path of Shreyas. And let us hope that if we come to that, let us choose the path of Shreyas over Preyas and not worry too much about Yogakshema. Shri Krishna has given us this assurance. Ananya chintayanto ma ye jana paryupasate. That means if you surrender to the Lord, He will take you on the right path. Tesha nityabhiyuktanam yogakshema maha. About whatever you require, Shri Krishna has given us that promise. About that, I will take care. Our next speaker, verse 3, will be explained by Dr. Anupama. Dr. Anupama, please.
Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Adhyaya 1, Vali 2, Mantra 3. Swatvam priyan priyarupan cha kaman abhidhyayan nachiketo atyasrakshihi naitam shrinkan vittamayim avaptaha yasyam majanti bahavo manushyaha. In this mantra, Yamadharmaraja specifically admires Nachiketas. Here, Kaman Atya Srakshi means, the word Kama means worldly objects and not the usual meaning desire. Remember, Nachiketas was offered Priyan, children, grandchildren, gold, land, horses, elephants, etc. Also, Priyarupan, celestial pleasures like Apsaras. But what did Nachiketas do? Atya Srakshihi, outright rejection. Was this rejection born out of childish, but abhidhyayan, with intense awareness of what? Of Nitya, Anitya, Vastu, Viveka. The threefold doshas or limitations of Anitya Vastu, namely Dukkha Mishritvam, Atripti Karatvam, and Bandhakatvam, was very well known to him. Etam Srinkan Vittamayim na avaptaha. Yamadharmaraja said, "You have returned the most expensive ornament that I had gifted you." The word Srinkan has two meanings. First, it could mean an expensive necklace made of gems. Also, it could mean an additional ritual which will lead to future prosperity. Adi Shankaracharya calls it an inferior karma because it can give only finite results. Srinkan means Sritam, a Vedic ritual. For uninformed people, it is a means to prosperity, Vitta Mayim or Dhana Prapyam, although in reality it is inferior. Here Yamadharma Raja tells us that Nachiketas has transcended the universal weakness of humanity. Yasyam majanti bahavo manushyaha. The whole materialistic world is immersed in prosperity alone. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Anupama, for a clear explanation of this verse, where Yamadharma Raja is trying to tell us that Nachiketa has made this decision not by ignorance. Abhidhyayan, having considered. So it is not a foolish choice. Even though I gave him so many tempting objects, all these sense objects, you clearly said no because your path was very clear. In addition, that precious jewel which he gave as a gift, he has rejected it, and that we see in this verse number 3. Nilima, please.
Mete viparite vishuchi avidyaya cha vidyeti jnata vidya bipsinam nachiketa sammanye natva kama bahavalo lolu panta. Meaning, these two diverse courses, which are known as ignorance and knowledge, are far divergent. I consider Nachiketas to be a seeker of knowledge. Numerous sense objects did not tempt you. The first 4 stanzas constitute the stream of thoughts that came to flash through the mind of Lord Death, when his temptations and trials was efficiently denied by Nachiketa, who is a great devotee filled with dispassion and viveka. Each moment, the path of prayer and Shreyas present themselves to a human being. One may wonder why he should make a choice, why not pursue both paths? Unfortunately, it is not possible because they are diagonally opposite, like discrimination and non-discrimination, darkness and light. Preya or Karma Marga perpetuates avidya and Jnana Marga promotes vidya. Karma Marga is avidya Marga. Self-ignorance implies that one identifies with the body-mind complex. Karta performs karma due to self-ignorance. This is the main technical reason. When a person takes to karma marga, his objective is to increase his possessions, wealth, people, status, etc., to be secure and happy. Such a person relies on external support. This sense of incompleteness is a fundamental reason for karma. Karma marga leads from dependence. Jnana marga questions the basic assumption that one needs external support. Jnana marga is a strengthening your legs, while karma marga is procuring a variety of crutches. One should gradually train himself to be independent of external support. In Praya marga, one avoids risk by being dependent on things. While in Shreya marga, one faces the challenge and gets freedom as its benefit. At the same time, it is important to note that seeker need not renounce the world for Vidya or Jnana marga, but to be God-centered or focus on one's goal while performing one's duties remaining in the world. We can see this in the lives of King Janaka or Arjuna fighting in the Kurukshetra war, or many rishis in the past who were in Grihastha Dharma, signifying that the inner attitude of detachment and performing their duties alone matters. Nachiketa was a seeker of knowledge because he chose Vidya without allowing the temptations of the world to distract him. His attitude shows that he is a fit student to pursue Jnana Marga. Jai Gurudev.
Thank you very much, Nilima, for another nice explanation of verse 4 of this section. Again, reiterating the same thing. So, because it is important, yete vichuchi. That means through diverse courses are known. We know the path of Vidya, we know the path of Avidya. It is a repetition again that these two paths are divergent. So if you choose one, you will not be able to take the other. And although I have tempted you, I've given you all forms of temptations, I really appreciate you as a student of the highest. You have given up all these temptations and chosen the highest. The last verse, so in repetition, these two diverse courses, which are the path of knowledge and the path of ignorance, are divergent. I consider Nachiketa to be the seeker of knowledge, and in spite of various temptations, you did not succumb to them. The last verse for today will be explained by Panaga. Panaga, please.
Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. In the second section of the Prathama Khanda, Lord Yama glorifies the student in general and Nachiketas in particular. Shishya Stutihi. Lord Yama considers Nachiketas to be a seeker of knowledge because he chose Vidya or Gnana Marga without allowing worldly temptations to distract him. In this verse, Lord Yama contrasts him, the discriminative student, Viveki, with an indiscriminative one, a Viveki. Coming to the verse, Avidyamānāmantare vartamānah swayam dhīrah pandita-manyamānah dandramyamanah pariyanti mūಢāh andhenaiva niyamānā yathandhāh. Steeped in ignorance and considering themselves to be wise and learned, the deluded ones move about, wandering all over like the blind led by the blind. Next slide, sir. We know from Swami Paramarthananda's teachings that all human beings crave for only three things: peace, security, and happiness. Unless exposed to the Vedantic scriptures, people in general cling to worldly objects and other people to achieve these three goals. But we all know that as worldly objects, their existence is mithya. They can go away at any time. Lord Yama calls these people who do not have clarity of Brahma Satyam Jagan Mithya as Moodhaha, deluded ones. They are not discriminative, avivekis, and continue to exist in their delusion of dependence on worldly objects because they are afraid of dropping their dependence on them. Just like we cannot let go of our attachment and need for support from our family, friends, profession, and possessions. Next slide, sir. That's why Lord Yama strongly criticizes the ignorant or deluded ones. He says they are neither capable of discerning the mithyatva of worldly objects themselves, nor are they willing to expose themselves to the teachings of the scriptures. They think that they are intelligent, swayam dhīraha, and learned, panditaha. Even though they are ignorant, they have this ego or intellectual arrogance that stops them from going to the learned. They wander from dependence to dependence, not only in this janma, but from janma to janma. A human birth is rare, and these people waste it on pursuing only materialistic goals. Lord Yama says that they are like the blind, led by the blind, because they idolize and follow only materialistic people. Now, why should we surrender to the scriptures? Science or reasoning can help us in revealing objective truth and not the subjective truth. If I want to see my eyes, I must surrender to the mirror. Similarly, if I want to see my own nature, I must surrender to the scriptures. The Aviveki's arrogance does not allow him to do this. Hence, Lord Yama heavily comes down on materialistic people and indirectly praises Nachiketa's Viveka. Thank you, Hari Om.
Thank you very much, Panaga, for explaining this verse, which also comes in the Mundaka Upanishad. very similar except for one word, avidyayam antare vartamana swayam dhiraha pandita manyamani. So we will encounter all such people, and let us not be judgmental about these people, because fortunately we are so blessed to be in this path, and let us not be condemning, but then it is a warning for ourselves that let us not get lost into the feeling that I know everything. And without knowing everything, if I'm going to lead others, that is going to be like the blind leading the blind. With that, we conclude today's class. Over to you, Dr. Vasumati.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Dr. Hegde, sir, and all the speakers for a wonderful session. Dear seekers, as all of you are aware, Param Vedanta has been offering Guru Dakshina to all our gurus twice a year, once during Guru Purnima and again during Gita Jayanti. You have all been a part of this offering all through, and we are indeed grateful to you. Now, Gita Jayanti is back again on 22nd of December 2023, and it's time for us to submit our offering to the lotus feet of our gurus. I'm sure you will join us in this Guru Seva as always, and I therefore appeal to kindly offer your generous, reverential offerings to these gurus. Needless to mention, the decision to donate and the amount of donation is purely voluntary and there's absolutely no compulsion. The entire amount of your offering thus collected will reach the lotus feet of our gurus. The mode of payment and account details are displayed on the screen. It will also be sent to you in all the groups. Those of you who decide to offer may remit your Guru Dakshina to this account as displayed on the screen. Details of Guru Dakshina offered will be shared with you all. Coming Friday, that is 22nd December 2023, is Gita Jayanti. We have a 2-day special series. First session is on 22nd and again on Saturday, 23rd December, where we'll have a special talk by Dr. Hegde sir. On both the days, please tune in at 6:45 p.m. Thank you all for your participation, as also for your encouraging feedback. We close today's session with our usual Shanti mantra. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om.